Ubisoft is known for rather samey iterative games. They've locked into this open world formula of game that, when you're in the mood for them, they hit, and they're fun, but when you peel all those layers back, they almost seem like they're focus tested to death. But every now and again, they'll inject something new, unique, and fun into the industry. From Child of Light, Valiant Hearts, and Mario & Rabbids, they can genuinely make some amazing games. And among all of these were Rayman, Origins, and Legends, two gorgeous 2D platformers with fluid controls and seriously memorable levels. So of course I was excited when Ubisoft announced that the same team that made Rayman, Legends, and Origins were going to make a 2D Metroidvania Prince of Persia game, a series that I don't really have much experience with. Now I will admit that as of writing this review, I'm still a bit unsure about this game. On one side of my brain, I love it. The platforming is slick, and how they implement all the abilities into the later platforming challenges is nothing short of brilliant. The combat system is slick, and honestly one of the best I've seen in a Metroidvania. The areas are diverse and fun to explore, and the world is filled with secret side activities to make exploring them rewarding, on top of it simply being fun to play. And overall, I had a great time with this game. On the other side of my brain though, there's something gnawing at me. There's something just, hiding in the back of my head, just giving me that kernel of doubt that's like, Adam, there's just something about this that just isn't clicking with you, and it's preventing you from fully enjoying this game. I got lost quite a bit, leading to at least an hour, if not more, of exploring random parts of the map, only to be led to a dead end. And I think this is just a part of Metroidvanias, especially when you get them pre-released, because obviously there are no guides, and there's no way to look shit up, so you just have to figure it out yourself. I also think this game is slightly too long, clocking in at about 18 hours with 75% completion. And while I think all the powers you get are really fun, they're slick, they're easy to use, there's nothing really new in it. Prince of Persia the Lost Crown is a great game. It genuinely is. But I think it made me realise that I don't actually like Metroidvanias as much as I previously thought. I used to love them. I played Symphony of the Night for the first time in college on my Vita. And from there, I dabbled in all sorts of Metroidvanias, from Guacamelee, Cave Story, Hollow Knight, Chasm. The list goes on. And as I went through this game, I realised I haven't really played a Metroidvania in quite some time. And this game made me realise why I haven't. Now this game is going to be more positive than negative, because overall this game is super high quality. So the art is the first thing that kind of caught my eye, obviously in the trailers. And it's this 2.5D art style with almost a watercolor aesthetic. And I think in the absence of beautiful hand-drawn 2D animation, I think this is probably the best you're going to get. Now, if you take something like Bloodstained Ritual of Night, now obviously that game did not have Ubisoft's backing behind it and this massive team to work on it. But if you look at Bloodstained and compare it to Prince of Persia, you're like, oh, this is what 2.5D art can look like. And it truly is it's just drop dead gorgeous. There is so much detail in absolutely everything. And there's parts of this game when you go into a room and there's this vista behind you and you just sit there and you're like, oh, this game is genuinely gorgeous. And then on top of that, they also have some really cool visual flares where with his swords, all this blue slashes come off his sword. And then when you do sort of the finishing moves or in between boss fights, there's these really flashy uses of color as you're fighting the bosses or you pull off this animation. And as I said, I think in the absence of, hiring an art team to make some like gorgeous 2D art style, which costs more money, takes more time, this is, I think, the best alternative, because this game truly looks fantastic. Also, the colors just pop off the screen. Every single area looks different and each has their own visual style, and it's so easy to recognize each area from the next. And while I didn't play much of it in this mode, the PS5 version runs at 4K 120Hz, and it's just so smooth. The game just looks and plays absolutely fantastically. And then that brings me on to the movement and combat, because it's just slick. From minute one, without having any upgrades, the character just controls so smoothly. You have a jump, you can wall run, you can dash, you can sprint, and then as you go along, you unlock a dash, a mid-air dash, a double jump, a grappling hook, slingshot kind of ability. You also unlock this ability where you can freeze a version of yourself somewhere, and you press L1, you lock them in place, and then you can, say, attempt a really hard jump and jump off, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna miss this, I'm gonna die, and then you press L1, go back to safety. While the basics of this game are so smooth and so slick and easy to use and so fluid, it's how they implement them in later in the game when they start to bring in all of the different abilities where some of the platforming sections for the optional parts are really hard and they really force you to use your brain and use all of the abilities that is given, which I think is how you sort of iterate on these games. It's all well and good having all these abilities, and when the abilities feel good, that's great, but it's how they implement them all together that really sort of separates a good platformer to an amazing platformer, and this game is an amazing platformer. Later on in the game, you will have rooms that I'm not sure if I'm able to show, but later on in the game, you will have rooms where you have to dash, you have to jump, dash, save your second jump to jump to an area, and then use L1 to use the clone ability, and while you're in that clone ability, then use R1 to pull something down with your grappling hook. Use L1 to get onto that platform that you just pulled down using your clone ability. And then there's just so many of these platforming challenges. Either some of them sort of to progress the game do get difficult. They're not overly difficult, so if you're not like mad into being like a super twitchy platformer, then that's fine. You will be able to get through the game. Also, there's some really good accessibility options that I will talk a bit about later. But eventually you get to a stage where there's just all of these side rooms where you're finding the collectibles that are used to upgrade, to buy upgrades, to buy, like, you know, new items and stuff. And the simple act of trying to beat these is so fun and so challenging. And I found myself, anytime I found a room like this, I actually just did it. Not because I wanted to 100% the game, because as I said, I'm about 78% through. It's because they were just simply fun to do, and I really, really enjoyed the challenge of having to figure out, firstly, figure out how to do them, because the platforming itself is a puzzle, because you have to figure out what abilities you need to use in combination to be able to get to the places. But then also you need to then build up the sort of mechanics and movement so that you know when to use them and are also fast enough, and some of them are just fantastically fun, fantastically well designed 2D platforming sections that I absolutely adored. And then we get into the combat. Pretty much all your abilities that you get can be used in combat, okay? So you have your normal slashes, your square, 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 and then you can hold square to do a heavy attack. But then also it's kind of a bit of like a character action / platform fighter where there's directional inputs. Like there's a back A that does like a quick jump if the enemy is about to do a counterattack, and then there's like an up square that knocks them up into the air, and then when they're in the air you can juggle them with a couple of hits, or you can knock them straight back down onto the ground, or you can knock them up into the air, do 2 hits, use your bow to juggle them in the air, start another combo, then launch them down to the ground. And it's not overly complicated. There's not a load to do in it, but it's how they use all the different mechanics that you have to like combo them together. And as you go along, you unlock new abilities, like even just the little things. One of the last ability you unlock is a grappling hook, and that just makes the combat so much more fluid. You can either pull enemies to you or grapple yourself to enemies, and it just makes doing all these combos so fun. And then when you get into the boss fights, they're really strong. Firstly, their designs are really cool. The final boss, the second to last boss, which I won't show, his design is just so cool. He's so menacing. He just comes out into the arena and you're like, oh, he looks cool. And then the other sort of bosses they're just fun mechanically to fight it, and especially, even though I can't show it and it's a shame, especially the last boss really forces you to use like pretty much all your abilities. Like each boss kind of gives you have like 1 or 2 mechanics that you have to use to be able to defeat them. So let's say a boss will do a move that covers the bottom of the screen in fire. So what you have to do here, you have to, before this happens, jump, clone yourself in the air, and then when the fire comes, time it at the right moment to jump into the air, dash so you hold yourself in the air for long enough, and then press your clone ability to hold in the air for even longer. So you're just constantly like, oh crap, what's the next attack? Okay, that's cool. And then what abilities do I have to use to stop this attack, or to prevent this attack, or block the attack, or parry? And I just like this is the thing that's like kind of going around in my head. As you can see, as I'm talking about this game, I'm gushing. The game feels so good to play, like unbelievable to play. First 8 or 10 hours, I was just flying. I was finding new items, I was unlocking new things, I was I was fighting new bosses. The enemy designs and the enemy variety is really good. You're constantly kept on your toes with new enemies and different abilities that you need to use to be able to fight them, and also figure out their attack patterns, and you can also parry them, which always feels good. And there's also these, like, when they flash up yellow on their attack, if you parry that at the right time, you do this finisher move and they just look slick. So it's like everything about this game is brilliant. But I think, as I said at the start, I think I just realized that there are certain things to Metroidvanias that I just don't like. And I think the main thing about this game is there's too many areas, and I think it's slightly too long. I felt like this game outstayed its welcome, because the first, say, 5 to 8 hours were just go, 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 new items, new abilities, new areas to explore, new enemies to fight, new bosses, everything. It was fantastic. And then there was 2 distinct moments, and I understand this is just part of Metroidvanias, and these moments will come for you at different times, where I just got lost, and I was running around like a headless chicken for an hour, just, you know, oh, here's the tiny bit of the map that I haven't explored, let me go here, and then I realized, oh, that's not where I need to go, and then I need to loop all the way back up. And I think the problem here is that this game is large. There is like 6 or 7 different areas, and the areas are all very big, and there's times where, like, you would be, let's say you're on the east side of the map exploring it, okay, and you're exploring one area, and then you explore another area in the east side of the map. And that can take you 2 or 3 hours, like, if you're like trying to do everything. And in those 2 or 3 hours, you kind of forget the mental map of what this area is on the west of the map or something. And then trying to get back over there, because obviously this is a Metroidvania, there's loads of backtracking. And I think the areas are well designed in the sense that you get the main path, and then the main path will also have a shortcut or a fast travel location that will kind of make a shortcut for you, which is obviously, like, that is just the basics of Metroidvania, is that they need to have this or the games just feel very annoying to play. But still, there was a lot of backtracking. I understand this is a Metroidvania, and this is the whole thesis of this review, is that I just think I realized that Metroidvanias, while I do like them and I enjoy playing them at certain times, they're a genre that I have to be in the mood for. Similar to checklist open world games. When, as I said at the start of this video, when a Ubisoft checklist open world game comes and I'm in the mood for it, I'll just sit down, listen to a podcast, and just disappear and have fun. And I think Metroidvanias are the same. And I think now, I just wasn't in the mood for a Metroidvania. This is a ridiculously high quality game from everything. The art style, just how the game feels to play. But I do think it outstayed its welcome. There's loads of areas, like 18 hours for a Metroidvania, I personally think is slightly too long. Because there was a point where I was like, oh, I kind of wish this game was done. And then it gave me an extra area that, like, added an extra hour on. And even though it's like, you know, it's only an hour, but like an hour in as a percentage of the game time is quite large. So yeah, this game is brilliant. It really is. And they added in this new mechanic that I decided to save till the end of the video. It's this magical mechanic that right now, the name of it escapes me. Basically, you're in a room. You press down on the D-pad, it takes a picture of the room, okay? Absolutely revolutionary, fantastic mechanic. Absolutely brilliant, okay? But wait. This mechanic obviously stops you from backtracking. Because if you're, say, you're up here, top right of the map, and you need to get to the bottom left, and, like, even though, you know, you might have to walk for 5 minutes, or, like, say, 2 minutes to get to a fast travel location, and you can fast travel to, like, close to that area, you still need to, like, waste, you know, 5 or 10 minutes just to get to that area to see, oh, is this the next place to go? But with this fancy dancy, handy new mechanic, say you come to a dead end, take a picture of that room, and then you're like, okay, I can see that this has the grapple point. So that means later on, when I get the grapple hook thing, I can go there and then I can explore. That's brilliant. However, the problem is, and this boggles my mind, I do not understand why this happened. This mechanic has consumable items that you need to find, and I did a lot of exploration, okay? So I'd say the first 50% of my game, I pretty much explored everything that I could. The last 25% of my game was probably all story, with a couple of side bits, because as I was saying, I was really enjoying the sort of extra hard platform challenges. But the consumables that are tied to this mechanic are really rare. I think, I don't have an exact number, but I would say in my playthrough, I maybe had 25 of them, okay? And the problem is, it's just a quick press of down on the D-pad, as you can see by my purple controller. Down on the D-pad, and there you go. And the problem is is that you use this D-pad quite a lot. Up is to heal, and what's left and right? I forget. But pressing, you can easily sort of, you're running around and boom, oh, I accidentally pressed it. And then all of a sudden, you wasted a picture. And there's no way to, there might be a way to delete them, I just didn't see it. And yeah, it's like, why give me this mechanic that is so good and so useful, but have it limited so that I feel like I don't want to use it? Because if this wasn't tied to a consumable, all of my issues that I had with this game that made me realize, oh, maybe I don't like Metroidvanias, would be alleviated. Essentially, if I could take pictures, if I could go into a room and take a picture of every single room that I had been, not exactly every single room, but say I just explore a room, okay? I'm exploring one path, I get to an end, and I'm like, oh, I need a different ability for this. Picture, grand. And if I just did that throughout the whole game, that hour of me running around like a headless chicken would not have happened. Because then I could have seen, oh, this is a dead end. Okay, I understand this is a dead end. So let me look at my picture that I took, 6 hours ago and see what ability I need. Okay, I don't have that ability. And then I was like, oh, up the top left, there's a place that I have a picture. Why do I have the picture there? Look at the picture. Ah, I see. I just unlocked that ability. Let me go there and continue exploring. But instead, they make it an extremely, extremely rare resource that you need to find in chests. And it discourages you from using it. It's like the best mechanic I've ever seen in a Metroidvania game since the dawn of Metroidvanias. It pretty much, that would almost alleviate the main issue that people have with Metroidvanias, and that is how much backtracking there is. I don't mind some backtracking, but the aimless backtracking is what annoys me and annoys plenty of people. But yeah, that just kind of boggles my mind. I wonder what you think about that once you get your hands on the game, because I do recommend this game. I genuinely do. It's a fantastic Metroidvania. The only thing is, as I was saying, I think it's quite long, and I think it's long because the game is like 50 or 60 euro. So maybe they felt like they needed to justify the fact that this isn't a 20, 30, 40 euro game. Instead, it's a 50 or 60 euro game. So yeah, I just want to support Ubisoft in making these sorts of games, because I mean, it's when we get Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, we get Valiant Hearts, we get Child of Light. I mentioned all these at the start of the video. When we get games like this, it's special because Ubisoft are making Just Dance. They're making the Crew Motorfest, which I like. They made Avatar, which I like. They made Far Cry, which I like. I didn't like Assassin's Creed Mirage, but they're formulaic games that I do enjoy. But when they make a game like this, it's like, give me more of that, please. I recommend this game. It's very fun. It just kind of made me realize that I don't really like Metroidvanias as much as I thought. So thank you everybody for watching. This is the first big review of the year. And I forgot to mention the story in this game. I don't care about the story. My later reviews of other games, I will talk about the story, but this is a Metroidvania. The story, if anything, hinders the game because it's not like overbearing where there's loads of dialogue and loads of cutscenes, but every time I got dialogue or I got cutscenes, I didn't care, because Metroidvania should show and not tell. You should exist in the world, and the world should create a story through its atmosphere, through the lore that you find. And while this game does do that, it does have lore, it like loads of background lore, it has like good atmosphere in some areas. It kind of feeds everything to you through cutscenes and through dialogue that I didn't care about. So do with that what you want. Next review, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, number 7. Working on that now. That'll be out soon enough. So I really appreciate you watching. Let me know if you're going to pick this game up. Loads more reviews coming this year. And I will see you all on the next video. Goodbye.